There's technically no such thing as the Chinese language. Linguists classify Chinese as a family of languages that are related but not mutually intelligible. Just like German and English and Dutch are related languages in the Germanic language family, but they're not mutually intelligible. They all descend from a common language that was spoken hundreds of years ago, but now they're distinct languages. The same thing happened with Chinese. The modern Chinese languages descend from a single language called Middle Chinese, which was spoken around 300 CE to 1100 CE. So Middle Chinese is actually a lot like Old English, which was spoken from 500 CE to 1100 CE. And this is what Old English looks like. You actually have to take a second language class in Old English in order to be able to read Beowulf in the original Old English. So if that's how much English has changed over the last 1,000 years, imagine how much these different Chinese languages have diverged from each other. There are 5 major Chinese languages: Mandarin, Min, Wu or Shanghainese, Yue or Cantonese, and Hakka. What people call Standard Chinese is for the most part just a specific dialect of Mandarin spoken around Beijing. Since Beijing is the capital of China, this dialect gets used for official contexts and as a lingua franca across the country. Because of this, most people in China have to know at least some Mandarin in addition to their local language. So how different are these Chinese languages? Well, here's a comparison of words in Mandarin, Yue, and Min. Sometimes you can tell that the words are related, but other times they look completely different. The different Chinese languages don't even have the same number of tones. Mandarin has 4 tones, while Cantonese has 9. Even 2 villages just a handful of miles apart can have sometimes different tone systems. So why do people think of Chinese as just a single language? Well, there are a few reasons for that. First, all these Chinese languages use the same writing system. This works because Chinese characters generally represent words rather than sounds. So the character for 1 is generally pronounced as yi in Standard Chinese, yat in Cantonese, and it in Hokkien. The second reason people think of Chinese as a single language is because it used to be, and since that was the classical tradition, people still think of it that way. A similar situation actually happened in Europe with Latin. It took scholars centuries to realize and then admit that they were no longer speaking Latin. For centuries, French and Spanish were just called dialects or vernaculars in the same way that the different Chinese languages are called dialects today. People just saw them as corrupt forms of Latin. The first grammar of a Romance language wasn't even published until 1437, and it was a grammar of Tuscan, an Italian dialect. Spanish didn't get one until 1492, and French didn't get one until 1530. It took that long before people finally accepted that these were distinct languages that needed their own grammars. And finally, the third reason people think of Chinese as a single language is political. The Chinese government wants to promote unity and a national identity, much in the same way that many US politicians claim that the United States is an English-only country, when the fact is the US is actually an extremely linguistically diverse place. Same for China. I'm Danny, I post about the science and diversity of language. Like this video if you want to learn more.